Welcome to Cage Chaos, brought to you by MMA Futures. MMA Futures, if you want to follow us, be sure to subscribe below. Give us a thumbs up if you want to see more of this great content. Don't forget, we release fights every day at 4 o'clock, 4:30. I'm joined today by the one, the only, the Grant Dawson. How are we doing, Grant?
Good, man. How you doing today?
Man, just this coronavirus thing kind of has me stuck in my house, so I get to spend my days doing things like talking to you.
So there's a blessing out of everything, right?
There you go. So man, how have you been? How's this quarantine, this not being able to go to the gym every day been treating you?
Man, it sucks. It really sucks. We're about a week in, and it feels like we're 2 years in, and it's weird not having the daily habits. It's weird, it's kind of hard figuring out what day it is, honestly, because I just go by what days of training we're having. So without having the regular schedule that we normally have, it's been really crappy. But still working out, still getting my my training in where I can. It's not what it is normally, but making the best of a bad situation.
Man, I'll tell you what, man. We last week I talked to your coach James, and he is very adamant that, man, right now is the time you need to make yourself. What kind of stuff are you doing to kind of stay on top of things and kind of advance yourself while you've got this time off?
Man, we're still training. We're not having practice, but we'll have. I'll get my guys in the garage and we'll roll and stuff like that. Anything that you can do to stay in shape. The big thing, excuse me. The big thing that we're looking for is once things go back to normal, there's going to be a lot of fight opportunities. So it's getting my weight down and staying ready for those things. That's real big right now. Like trying to stay ahead of that curve, keeping the cardio good, being ready to take a fight on short notice is really my goal to come out of all of this.
So are you expecting kind of once we come out of this, are you expecting the UFC to be kind of pick up where they left off, or do you see them doubling up on some fights some weekends? I mean, they can only throw so many events. Obviously, on the smaller scene, we're going to see a lot of fights. But as far as the UFC, I mean, you say they're going to have a lot of fights. How do you expect that to happen?
Well, I think they're going to have to catch up, and I don't think that the shows are going to change, but I think it's going to be a while before out of the country guys can come in and out as normal. I think things will go back to normal for us in our country, but I think that it's still going to be a while before out of the country people can come in and we can leave and all that stuff. So they're going to need a lot more fighters on cards in the U.S., and that's where guys like myself come in and Woodson come in, and even some guys that we have that are right there to get into the UFC who aren't in yet. Like, this is a great opportunity for them. If they stay ready and they can make weight on short notice, the sky's the limit.
No, I mean, we have seen our first kind of victim of this, the travel bans. I actually brought up the Khabib versus Tony fight today with Derek when I interviewed him. And he brought to my attention that they canceled that fight that's not happening because Khabib can't leave Russia.
Yeah, that's the word. I mean, I don't think we all truly know what's going on. Like, we all think we know what's going on, but luckily it's kind of looking like Justin Gaethje and Ferguson are going to fight, which in my opinion is a better fight anyway. So best out of a bad situation. That fight just must not be destined to happen. Like that, they've been scheduled 5, 6 times now. It's crazy.
And every time it breaks up, it's been a freak accident. It was Khabib going to the hospital because of missing weight. It was Ferguson tripping over a wire. And now it's the coronavirus. I mean, are we ever going to see this fight?
Maybe when they're in their 50s.
Man, I know you're a huge fight fan. Something I like to ask a lot of people is, man, if you could compete, or you could have, actually, I'm going to change this up a little bit for you. If you could take the skills, if you could have the skills of any fighter in history, whose skills would you add to your own?
Oh, man. Probably Israel Adesanya's. He's He's good right now, man. He's got something that I don't got. He's real pretty and real slick and smooth and funny. I'm none of those things. So if I could add his little charm on thing, I would say Khabib, but I feel like I'm a 145-pound version of Khabib. You know, I think that'll come within time. I don't think I'll ever be a striker like Israel. So probably Israel striking and his movement.
Well, man, you know, a lot of people are talking about they're getting some of this movement by taking some time off and dancing. You know, that's what they said that. Oh, gee, I can't remember who it was. We're gonna see you going and taking some ballet classes here pretty soon.
No.
That's awesome.
Lomachenko
Well, man, hey, Lomachenko. There you go. That's what I was thinking of. Perfect.
Yeah, he danced for years. Like they took him out of boxing to dance, and he danced for years. And he actually accredits a lot of his footwork to his dancing lessons, which is great, but not for me.
Not for you. Well, hey, man, let's talk about your last fight, man. Man, it's been kind of a roller coaster for you. You're scheduled to fight in Vegas. You had to do a commission hearing about all this stupid USADA stuff. You come back, you go through 3 fighters, and you end up having to take a short notice fight against Derek Minner. I mean, talk to me a little bit about kind of that beginning to end, man. The finding out you're not fighting in Vegas all the way to fighting somebody you actually know at the last minute.
Honestly, they gave us like 4 names, and they were all guys that I felt really good matchup wise against. You know, different styles, but I think that we got lucky fighting Derek. You know, I think that he's a lot like not Trevano, Skelly. He's a lot like Skelly, and so you know we didn't really have to change anything. Also, I know Derek very well. You know, coming up in that scene, I thought we were going to fight for a long time on the regional level. He fought one of my teammates. I believe one other teammate was scheduled to fight him as well, because I've gone through 2 camps pretending to be Derek for my teammates, and so I know I knew him really well. So it wasn't, you know, it was really a blessing in disguise. If we were going to get somebody, you know, we were lucky to get him, and it's not because he's not good, because he is good, but like at least he's the style that I'm prepared for, you know. Skelly has a lot of good front head chokes, and so does Derek. So I was in the front head for a lot of this camp. That's why when he did get me in those spots, even though it was a different guy, I knew we prepared for this, we were ready for this, and that's why it kept me from panicking, kept me from doing something stupid.
I was going to ask you, man, in that first round, Derek had that guillotine in pretty deep. I didn't know, you know, man, I thought you might have been ready to tap. How close was that to getting you, man?
Why? I don't know why people say that. Like, I've gotten so many, oh, he almost tapped, he almost tapped. Like, that thought never even crossed my mind. And it wasn't because it wasn't tight. And it's not because I wasn't in danger. I was definitely in danger. I was definitely, if I didn't defend properly, I was going to go to sleep. But the thought of tapping never went through my mind. Not one time did I think, oh, man, I better tap. Like, it was, oh, crap, we're in a bad spot. Let's fight out of it. And sometimes when you're in a scramble, your hands, like, just move on their own and whatever. Was it tight? Yes. Was it something that I didn't think I could get out of? No, I knew I was going to get out of it. I knew I was – and honestly, when he locked that up and I felt him give all of his energy and force into trying to finish that, but I thought to myself, I was like, the moment I get out of this, he's going to give up. He's going to – this is the breaking point. So all I have to do is not get tapped here, and I will win this fight. And we got into a weird scramble. We got into a really good defense. I'm there all the time. You know James. You know Trey Ogden. They've got crazy good guillotines. Jason High, crazy good guillotines. I'm there every practice. I don't think I've been in a practice where my head has not been in a guillotine at least once, you know? Like, we come from a guillotine gym. I knew what to do. I knew how to defend, and that's what we did. We defended, we got out, and he gave up.
Man, last week I got the opportunity to talk to Rafion Stotts. You know, he made the trip over to Bellator. You worked with Rafion a couple of times, right?
Yeah, I know Rafion. He's a good kid.
I mean, how far do you think he's going to be able to go over there in Bellator?
In Bellator, I think sky's the limit for him. He's very talented. He's got a great personality. He's an incredible wrestler, and his striking is good too. His striking is really good. I think this in Bellator, the sky is the limit for him. And he's at 35, which really isn't a super stacked division. I think he could, compete with all of those guys. I think the best guy at 135 is Gallagher, and the guy that sidekicked him. I know who he is. I can't think of his name right now. And I think that Rafion can beat probably both those guys. He's got the grappling to hang with both of them for sure, and his striking is decent too. He's such an athlete. I think Rock very highly of Rafion. I think he'll do very well.
Right on, man. Well, hey, let's talk a little bit more about you. Man, I know that you're the James and Megan and a lot of people you train with there do their camps out in Colorado. Have you thought about going out there and doing some training with them out in Factory X with Coach Montoya?
Nope.
Nope, not at all, huh? You feel like you've got enough partners and all that stuff right there, and right on.
Man,
so talking. Go ahead.
I got my team, man. I got my training partners that I like. I think that James is the best MMA coach there is. And I like Mark Montoya a lot. I think he's phenomenal and fantastic. I think James is better. And obviously I'm completely biased on that, but James is amazing. And if I'm, especially in a camp, I wouldn't mind going up and training with them if I'm not getting ready for a fight. But like, if I'm in camp, I want to be as close to James as possible. I want him telling me what to eat, what to do, when to sleep, how much water to drink. Like I take the reins, I'll do what you tell me to do, and it's worked so far. I have my main training partner, Kevin Kroom, and John O'Brien, two guys that are really amazing, and I really don't need much else. And we got a bunch of young guys that are hungry and trying to take my head off every day. Like I don't need to go to Colorado to find that. It's the coaching level is just crazy where we're at, and we got all the training partners I need.
Man, you brought up some names there, especially like Kevin Kroom. Kevin Kroom is a guy that he's kind of been around the block. I mean, he went down, he's done the Jackson MMA thing, he came back up. We're actually talking to him on here tomorrow. What can you tell me about him as far as what is his potential and where's he headed?
Listen to me. Kevin Kroom is the best 145er/135er outside the UFC. He has had a rough and bumpy path, and sometimes when competing, he gets caught in stupid shit that he should not get caught in. I will give you that. But training with that guy for 18 weeks and the hell that we've put on each other, the rounds that we've put on each other, the scrambles, he is so good. He deserves to be in the UFC. He's beaten 3 guys that have been either on the Contender Series or in the UFC currently. I really feel like the UFC is missing out on him, and he's on a nice little win streak right now, and I think that the sky's the limit for that kid. I shouldn't say kid, he's older than me, but he's so good, man. If you could see our rounds in the practice room, he's so good, and I just wish that everybody else could see how good that guy is, because he really is amazing, and I think he deserves a shot in the UFC. I know there are people in the UFC right now that wouldn't stand a chance against him.
Man, what is your ambitions for this year? You fought a couple of times last year. You had some hiccups along the way. I mean, no losses, but you had to do the entire commission thing. Kind of what is your goal for this year? Kind of just, I mean, obviously we've got a huge road bump right now with the coronavirus, but do you want to get 2 more fights in this year? 3, 7? Kind of what is your goal for this year?
Yeah, man, I like 7. That sounds like a good number. For me, it's all about, the weight. I'd fight every weekend if I could. It's about making the weight for me. I've said this a lot. The goal at the end of this year has been to be ranked in the top 15 by the end of the year, by the end of Next year, 2021, I want to be ranked in the top 5. And then by 2022, I want to be UFC champion, you know. The goal for me doesn't change just because this whole thing is happening, you know. It doesn't change for me. It doesn't deter me at all. I'm going to keep on those goals. However, I do realize that, you know, it might be a lot harder. But we're going to keep searching for that. I want to be top 15 by the end of this year.
Man, that's awesome. I guess I don't even know who's the top of that top 15 in the UFC. Who are you looking? What kind of names are you looking to fight this year? Or your best choice? Who are you fighting next?
Next or in the top 15?
Next, who's the next guy you want? And who's who's the next guy you want?
Darren Elkins. That's the fight that we're looking for. You know, there's a game you got to play in this sport. You know, you can't be calling out Volkanovski on a 3-fight win streak. You know, you got to beat somebody, and I think that Darren Elkins is that somebody. I always tell people, everybody's a nobody till you beat a somebody, and I think that Darren Elkins is my somebody. You know, that's the fight we're going after. I'm also interested in Cub Swanson. I don't know how long he'll be out though, and I'm not waiting around. My goal is to beat Darren Elkins and then to call out somebody in the top 15. After I beat somebody in the top 15, I'll be ranked in the top 15, and then I can start calling out people lower down. You know, you don't just win a couple fights against a couple of guys that nobody's heard of and then call out, you know, Yair Rodriguez. You don't do that. You got to play the game, and I'm playing the game. I'll beat up Darren Elkins. Right, mate. I'll win against him. I'll fight somebody in the top 15. I'll beat them, and then I'll start making my calls on the way down.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. I'm looking at the top 15. I think there's a couple of guys there. There are, obviously, I think you can beat a lot of those guys. But I think there's some good matchups there and some stuff that might be fun to see around the end of the year. Even if we're looking like a Ryan Hall or Shane Burgos or Dan Inge, there's definitely definitely an opportunity up there for some guys for you to fight against.
Yeah, man. I like the Dan Ige fight. I think that we have pretty similar styles. I just think that I'm bigger and better in every aspect of the game. Ryan Hall's a tough fight, but I definitely think that I can beat him. You know, I think that my fight IQ is high enough to beat him. I'm seeing some weaknesses in his game. And Burgos is tough. Burgos is a really, really tough guy. I would actually his danger factor is his cardio and his volume, which are my danger factors as well. So I think that's the fight of the night. But I definitely think that I can take him down and beat him up. But you know me, I'm confident against everybody.
Man, and I will tell you, man, as far as a fighter, you are one of those, you're a grinder, man. You like to get people on their back and kind of grind them out and get your positions, and, you know, that's where you get your submissions from and stuff like that. So as far as in your gym there, I mean, who are the guys that you see kind of being the next guy? Other than, obviously, you said Kevin Kroom's kind of there. You know, who are some of the guys that you see on a daily basis, that you train with on a daily basis, that you see kind of being somebody worth paying attention to?
Man, you know, I watched your interview with James, and he answered with all the obvious guys, you know, Trey Ogden and Jason Witt, Kevin Kroom, and Mike Breeden. Those guys are obviously huge on the list, and I definitely think they will be in the UFC soon, if not someday. Another guy that to look out for is Jeff Molina. I know you know Jeff. The dude is a 25-pound TJ Dillashaw. The kid is good everywhere. Like, he's got a funky, crazy striking style. Like, he'll hit you with the kitchen sink, and you won't even realize he had it in his hands. Like, he's slick. He's good. He's got great grappling. I definitely think that he can compete at the high level at 125 right now. Then you got my dude, John O'Brien. I think that John, he's young. He's 2-0 as a pro right now, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but I've been training with that kid since he was 16 years old, you know. He's been my main training partner in a couple of my camps when we thought we were going to fight tall southpaw strikers. He's been my main training partner. The kid's tough as hell. He's got a lot of good skills on him. I definitely think that he's going to be somebody that you're going to be hearing about in the future. And then we have a bunch of amateurs too that like are trying to change their lives. You know, we got this kid named Mohammed Wolek. And I know you haven't heard of him, but he's 3-0 as an amateur right now, and the kid is a workhorse. Every day he's texting me with this whole Corona thing going on, like, hey, do you want to work out today? Hey, when are you working out? Like, let's get after it. Let's work. Like, the kid's tough as nails, doesn't get tired. He's strong as an ox. Like, he'll do anything you tell him to do. Like, if I told him to break a kid's neck, he'd go out there and he'd try, you know, like he's just a sponge. I really think that he's going to be a kid you're going to be hearing about someday. So keep your eye on him.
That's awesome, man. Well, hey, you're a small town Nebraska kid living down in the big town of Kansas City now. What got you from small town Nebraska to Kansas City? I mean, I know there's a long story in between there. You and I have talked about it before, but what kind of got you into fighting, and what got you to where you're at now?
Man, what got me into fighting was, I wanted to do something with my life with sports, and for the longest time I thought it was football, and I would work really hard at football. I would play football, and then when I got to high school, I would go to every practice. I would train really hard in football like it was MMA, and I never got to play. You know, they never put me out there, and I understand that. It's not for me. I'm crying about it. I wasn't good enough to play football, and nobody is. Football is one of the sports where you have to be born to play. So I started wrestling and started doing that, and I kind of knew I didn't want to like wrestle for the rest of my life. I didn't want to make a living out of wrestling. Like the Olympics never interested me, but I wanted to do something. And then my buddy Lane Brown, actually, he called me up one day and he said, "Hey, do you want to come over? Rampage Jackson and Rashad Evans are fighting, and it's going to be a great fight." And I was like, "What is that? The UFC stuff?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Isn't that fake?" And he's like, "No, that's WWE. This is 100% real." So I went over there, we watched the fight, and after I saw that fight, I was like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So I just started training in my backyard, honestly, and looking up YouTube videos. We would have fight nights every Tuesday night, 22-0 every Tuesday night, just saying. And after that, I kind of realized, like, hey, I'm actually getting kind of good at this, and this is a lot of fun. So I went to a real gym in York, Nebraska, started training there. After I graduated from high school, I moved to Lincoln, Nebraska, trained there for a year, kind of finished out my MMA or my amateur career, had my first pro fight, and after that, I moved up to Lee Summit to train with James. You know, my manager at the time called me and asked me if I wanted to go live in a fight house, and if I wanted to train with James Krause. And I said, yeah, let's do it. So we moved up there, been training with him ever since, you know.
You know, man, I've known you for a long time, and there's you and one other person, you and Dwight Joseph, which are both of you guys trained together in Lincoln. I find it to be super funny because you guys are such fans. Not only are you competitive in the sport, such fans of the sport. So I'll never forget when you told me you talked to James about going down. You go, man, I got to talk to James Krause today. I think I'm going to go down there and train. What does it mean to you to be kind of living that dream of yours?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, it's, you know, when you're a kid, you know, you think you can do whatever you want. And if you're a good parent, you're telling your kid, yeah, you can be anything you want to be. You just got to work hard at it. And that's what my parents told me. And I just kind of always believed that, even with the whole USADA stuff, even when we were at the UFC level and then we kind of got cut and it was like a whole 16 months before I could compete again. You know, it finally is all paying off, you know, like I haven't worked a regular job in over a year. Like that's a year. I'm 26 years old. I haven't worked a regular job since I was late 24, you know. It's crazy to me, and it's just so amazing. Like my life is great, you know. I wake up, play video games, go to practice, come home, eat, play video games, go to practice. It's the dream, man. And I'm so happy that I put the work in as a kid to have my life now as an older kid, you know. Like that's my advice to anybody who has a dream, you know. Start young, put your work in, pay your dues when you're younger. That way you're not behind in the game.
So, man, when you go out to these fights in Norfolk and stuff, are you still fanboying out there? Are you still running up to these guys and trying to get pictures with them?
A couple of them. I try not to. 'Cause, you know, I'm one of them now. But a couple of them, like Rafael Dos Anjos is probably my second favorite fighter of all time, only to Khabib, and he was at the New York Rochester card that I was on, and I saw him sitting down, and I was like, no, be cool, like you're here, you know, and I was like, oh screw it, I'm gonna go talk to him. So I went up, I talked to him, and got a picture with him, and that was a lot of fun. But for the most part, I try to keep a level head.
Man, that's awesome, man. I'm glad to see you kind of living your dream and doing all that. Man, I can't get off of here without talking a little bit about your battle with USADA. We've not had a chance to talk about this before in a public thing like this. Tell me a little bit about what happened and kind of what's going on now.
So I have a metabolite in my system that basically they're saying they don't know when it happened. I don't know when it happened. It could have happened in high school when my wrestling coach was telling me to take these protein shakes and whatnot. And so I have this metabolite in my system, this turinabol metabolite that basically has a half-life of who knows when. Could be 10 years, could be lifetime. We don't know because it keeps showing up and then disappearing and then showing up and then disappearing. And basically what happened, that's why they ended up dropping the case, was because, they were like, oh crap, we don't know enough about this to prove that you did anything wrong. You didn't do this, but it's still showing up. And then we were all good with USADA. And then what happened with the Vegas fight, it showed up again. And USADA was like, hey, this is not a violation, you're good. The UFC said, hey, this is not a violation, you're good. And then the Nevada State Athletic Commission was like, no, screw you, we're not licensing you. So we had to fly to Vegas, have a conference with them, and basically what's going to happen is I'm getting tested twice every month, if not more, for the rest of my career. And that was the deal, and I'm perfectly fine with it. You guys can test me 5 times a month, 5 times a day. I got nothing to hide. Just as long as you understand that this metabolite we don't know enough about, we don't know why it's still here. I know other fighters are also struggling with this, like not just John Jones. Like things popping up in people's system, and they're clearly not cheating. They're not bad people, but USADA is almost too good at their job.
So here you go. Somebody you kind of follow the storyline with this entire Trinabol, the picogram thing with John Jones. Just got arrested this week. I know you used to be a huge fan of John Jones. What is your opinion on all this?
Well, I used to be a huge fan of John Jones, and then he started failing for drug tests, and then I was like, oh, he's a cheater. And then I failed for a drug test, and I was like, wait, I'm not a cheater. What's going on here? And so then I kind of swept that under the rug. I was like, maybe he didn't do it. Maybe he did something stupid in college, and now that's biting him in the ass, So that's fine, but I don't know. I'm not a big fan. I like John Jones as a fighter back in the day. I don't really like his fighting style now, and I don't really like him as a person now. However, I don't really know him. But when you're in the public eye like that, and this kind of stuff happens, it seems to me like the only person that's in John Jones's way is John Jones. And I think he knows that, and he thinks that he can get away with a bunch of stupid stuff. Like this whole arrest thing, Ben Askren posted something really funny, but it actually makes sense. He's like, why doesn't he just pay somebody $50,000 to drive him everywhere for an entire, year or 2 years? Like, have a guy to drive you everywhere. Like, get rid of this problem. Like, DUIs has been his problem for a long time. Driving under the influence has been his problem for a long time. So let's fix the problem, But I don't really have the right or the street cred to say anything about John Jones. I don't know him. I haven't accomplished as much as he's accomplished, and I've definitely had problems with USADA in the past. All I can say is, with his kind of resources, you'd think he'd be able to get this figured out.
Right, man. Okay, well, I got one more question for you before I let you go. We've been on here for almost a half an hour. First question: Fantasy MMA. What fight? If you could see any fight ever, who do you want to see fight in that cage?
Like fight each other? Like what matchup or against me?
Yeah. No, what matchup? What matchup do you think would be the best fight you could ever put together? If playing matchmaker on fantasy MMA here.
Current under the roster or like anybody or any time?
Anybody. Anybody in their prime. So anybody, you could say Fedor in his prime versus you, whatever.
Ah, that's a good one. Well, this is gonna happen. I really want to see Paulo Costa versus Israel Adesanya. But if we're going fantasy fight that I don't think will ever happen, but I think would be an amazing fight, I would take Michael Chandler in his prime before his chin was kind of wiggly, and put him against Khabib Nurmagomedov now. I think that would be just the wrestling and striking and the explosiveness and the power. I think that would be an amazing fight to have. And then another one is actually my dude Petra Yan and why can't I think of his name? Cody Garbrandt before Cody Garbrandt was getting knocked out all the time. I think those two are going to swing like crazy. They're both live by the sword, die by the sword, and man, do I like sword fights.
Man, you know what? That's not what I expected. I figured you'd throw a GSP versus Chuck Liddell or something out there at me.
I'd like to see a GSP versus Habib at 165. I'd like to see that. But I'm not. I love GSP. I think he's one of the greatest of all time. I will definitely watch if he fights, but I'm not dying to see him fight again. You know, I'm not. I think he's doing what he needs to do. Just be done, be retired, get out, get in, get on, get off, get out. He's making all the money he needs to make. He's the greatest of all time. Be done, man. Just be done.
Right on, man. Well, hey, let everybody that's watching this now, in the future, let them know where they can find you at, how to follow you, whether it'll be on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I don't know where all you're at.
Okay, guys, listen to me very closely. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you want to follow me and you want me to actually see your stuff and engage with you, follow me on Instagram. I hate Twitter. Everybody on Twitter is an asshole, and they're just a bunch of douchebags. So I don't go on Twitter because that's what I just said. I love Instagram. So follow me on Instagram, Grant Dawson, KGD. Hit me up on that one.
All right, and that's another episode of Cage Chaos, this time with Grant Dawson. Be sure to subscribe to the channel down below. Be sure to give us a big like, and be sure to pay attention to all the live stuff we got coming over the next couple of weeks. All right, man, we're done.
Awesome.